Welcome to you all to this introduction video on an innovations framework called 3F Future Fintech Framework, which is nothing but a vision to simplify understanding, foster innovation and accelerate growth in the fintech space. Over the series of next 8 videos, we are going to go through and first understand what is 3F Future Fintech Framework and why it is needed, right? Then we go on to the genesis of 3F Future Fintech Framework and whom is it helpful for and suited to. Then we go on to 3 key sections of the series of 3 videos wherein we understand the various components of the Future Fintech Framework. As part of the concluding slides, 2 sections or 2 videos where we talk about why frameworks are important. This is very important for us to understand because we will be able to bring or probably get the best out of the framework once we understand why frameworks are important. And to that extent, there are studies by McKinsey and others to back it up. And finally, we'll conclude and talk about how and what is this 3F edge, right, which is based on Future Fintech Framework and which is going to probably help you as part of future of your career and how do you get that. So let's begin with the first video. So as part of the first video, we are going to be talking about why 3F, right? And when we talk about any concept for a particular industry or segment, we need to definitely discuss about various actions, opportunities and challenges in that industry or segment. So what are those action, opportunities and challenges which are part of the combined fintech and digital space? And that's what we're going to discuss as part of this quick introduction video. So fintech, as we all know, is growing. It's a dynamic industry, lots of stuff happening. There's a convergence happening with other industry. Simply put, fintech is financial services and technology, and now digital dimension has got added to fintech, and not just fintech. I'm sure this is impacting every other industry. So now a combination of fintech and digital is much more powerful in terms of enabling every industry. With all this dynamism happening, we have lots of questions, and I have just broken them into parts, right? They come in various parts. The first part is there's a lot of discussion happening around things like automation, security, bundling of players, unbundling of players, digital, social media, identity, right? And these are impacting almost every industry. So what are those, right? So all these gives rise to questions, right? The other bigger part is fintech as an embedded play is a much larger scope. So this is not just restricted to someone who's coming from a finance background, right? It impacts everyone who's going to be part of the digital space, the startup space, innovation space, in almost every B2B2C, B2C, or to a great extent even B2B industries, right? So be it ed tech, travel tech, health tech, all the other techs which are part of the digital ecosystem will get impacted. So the opportunity is larger, so it must be of interest to you. The other larger part is governments globally are focusing and emphasizing on fintech in a big way. And why so? Because they realize that fintech is very important in terms of accelerating overall economic growth. Fintech also helps in terms of social and economic upliftment, right? You need to do financial inclusion so that you reach the underprivileged, right? And bring them as part of the fold of the society, right? And they get more growth opportunities. And fintech plays a very big role there, providing access to finance, right? And basic access to those services. Then there is a larger issue about the new age economy, which is heading towards what we call as a shared economy. And in absence of fintech, the shared economy will not be probably as effective, right? Imagine using an Uber and Ola, or for that matter Airbnb, without having a payment system or making use of insurance, right, or payment facilities, the likes of those, right? So shared economy is very important, that fintech is enabling it. The opportunity is huge, right? There are over 25,000 players globally in the fintech space, and with fintech and digital, this opportunity is n times, right? Probably in multiples. So that's another interesting area which gives rise to a lot of questions. And that's not all. Every quarter we see investments happening in the fintech space, because the investors realize how this industry plays a multiplier effect on every other industry and segment, and will become a very big segment which will drive the overall economic growth, right? So there's record investments in the fintech space. So that should get you interested, and you need to keep tab on that. And then there are a lot of other things with respect to accelerators, sandboxes, and much more happening. So that's as far as the questions is concerned, and the action and opportunity is concerned, right? So that makes the whole segment very interesting, something we should aspire to learn more, know more, because it will benefit us. That's point number one. But is that enough? For every industry, when you bring a solution, there has to be a problem, right? So before we get into the framework and the benefits, we have already seen the action and the opportunity. Now let's look at the challenges in the fintech and digital ecosystem. What are those? One of the biggest challenges facing the fintech and digital ecosystem is products and solutions are still very siloed, and they're not focused on customer. There's a, every industry, there is so much emphasis on just the product and process that the focus on customer goes. Basically, they want to focus on customers, but it does not come. So as a thought process, that's a shortcoming. That's a challenge. Though things have improved, but we still need to, there's a lot of stuff to improve and better. The second challenge is most products and solutions are just acquisition and transaction oriented, which is fine. You need to do that. But we need to extend, in a digital ecosystem, you need to extend this to look at a long-term engagement and relationship with clients, because that's what will get you growth and profitability, right? So that's important in a digital ecosystem. Then the other thing is, in a digital ecosystem and with new technology, we can move from mere satisfaction to delight. So this age of customer satisfaction will slowly be over. You can proactively delight a customer using technology, and that's what a digital framework or a ecosystem offers you. And you need to be mentally prepared as a framework to be able to tackle it. So today it's a challenge, and this is one of those challenges which the frameworks will address. So how do you move from satisfaction to delight? Fintech and digital ecosystems have certain peculiarities and complexities, right? Because you need to build trust in a digital ecosystem, same with fintech. So how do you do that in a digital ecosystem? And given the propensities and challenges of things like regulations, compliance, frauds, and the likes of those. So you need to build everything around in terms of the solution you craft for your customers in terms of the journeys. Many products today are not completely digitally native. Let me give you a very simple example. None of us will probably buy a car without a touch screen today. Most of us will end up buying a car with a touch screen, but say 10-15 years back, this thing was unheard of. So for a car to be digitally native, it has to have touch screen, it has to have compatibility with your mobile, it has to have the navigations and the likes of those, like many other features are there. So how do you make a product digitally native? Has to be imbibed as part of your thought process from the start on. Otherwise you will lose the traction with the customers. You'll not be able to effectively engage with the customers. So that is one challenge today. Another challenges organization face is to standardize but differentiate. Both are important, right? But they're both contradictory also. Organizations need to standardize because it helps them scale up, it helps them control, it helps them manage costs better, right? It helps them manage quality. So there are benefits of standardization, but sometimes excess standardization leads to inflexibility also, like we see this in larger organizations. But the best part is, so how does one differentiate? And the best part is technology will help you do both. You can both standardize and differentiate and micro segment and do a lot of stuff. So as a thought process, you need to bring in both, because till this time we always had an approach wherein one versus the other, standardize versus differentiate. But now you need to do both and need to imbibe it as part of your thought process. Another challenge today is, how do you have an approach with faster go-to-market and a low-cost go-to-market where there is continuous iteration and improvement, right? We talk about continuous iteration and improvement as part of quality, as part of your projects, but as part of your product cycle, innovation cycle, how do you do that, right? As keeping the faster and low-cost go-to-market in mind. That needs to be part of your thought process. How do you empower end users, right? Few years back, we had to stand in a queue, go to a bank and make a request for transferring money. And then maybe a couple of decades back, internet banking started coming in, became quite prominent in the last maybe a decade or so, and then in the last decade even mobile banking came in. So now the power of doing the transfer of money is in your hands. You can simply download a map and quickly transfer money. So the power has come to the end user. This is a characteristics of the digital age. So when you create a product or solution, this has to be a part of your thought process, and this is lacking today. So this is a challenge. How do you empower end users? And then finally, in order to accelerate and offer innovation and exciting solutions to customer, you need to have very quick partnerships and collaboration. So this links with go-to-market, innovation, and many things. So how do you do that? This is another challenge which we will probably get to know over the course of the framework in terms of how we can probably mitigate or overcome this, right? Not completely eliminate, because all that depends on the availability of technology and the likes of those. So this is as far as actions, opportunities and challenges goes. And this concludes our first video, which is part of Why 3F. And as part of the subsequent video, we will talk about the genesis of 3F and how and whom it benefits actually. So thank you.